my test results. Can you hear my heart beating? Oh, the white man's science is amazing, ain't it? Oh, no, this can't be. It says I'm 102% African with a 2% margin of error. Why, Lord? Why, Lord? Why?
Welcome to Hot Topics. We want to show you Uncle Ruckus first because we maintain that Clarence Thomas is Black America's Uncle Ruckus. And so you all out there may think that's extreme, but in a comical way, it points out what this guy has done to Black America with the terrible, terrible votes he's taken, and the most recent one being against affirmative action. How he could set his, you know what, up there and do that, I don't know. So I'm going to turn it over to Brother Caleb to get it started once again.
And so, let's see, just starting it off. So they're going through the checklist. And so we know they've attacked reproductive rights. We know they've gone after voting rights. Yeah. We know that they've gone after, what was the decision before this one was the...
Brown versus Board. I mean, not Brown.
The decision right before this one,
and the voting, there's a voting right that goes back.
No, the abortion.
No, it was one that was just right before this decision.
The abortion
last week.
No, that was the first one, I believe.
No, I thought they had another decision last week. So I know they're checking off their boxes, folks, and so they're checking off their boxes: reproductive right, voting rights, and now, of course, the decision that they just made, and
also the one on gay.
LGBT.
Yes.
And so again, so they're Thomas and his sugar daddy, Crow, they're going down the line, going down the list here. And so what I just want to say about Thomas is,
tell everybody who Crow is.
Harley Crow.
Yeah.
They know. I think they're familiar with it. He's the one who bought Thomas's overpriced mother's house and bought the other property and then gave Thomas the money to refurbish his mother's house and then rented the house back to Thomas's mother for.
Take him on vacation.
Yeah, he goes on vacations and takes him on his yacht and so he's Thomas's sugar daddy, and so and he has a whole list of conservative items that they've been after for years, and so like I said, they're going down the list and they're checking them off. And so again, elections matter, the consequences matter. You guys thought that Hillary's emails were more important than anything, and so now you have Trump, who's appointed a couple of different judges, and this is the results of that. And so, but what I want to say is they go down their checklist and they use Thomas. I can't wait to see his face when they get to the last item on that list, which is loving. And so I can't wait till they get to loving and go ahead and knock that one off. So Thomas, I can't wait to see your face.
Out of deference, you probably won't. But it's
correction,
well deserved.
Now, for correction, now they went after the voting rights, but it didn't go the way they wanted to because Thomas lost his mind on that one. He lost his mind on that one.
Okay. Let's turn to Chris.
I have no comment.
Oh,
No comment.
Well, I got a comment.
Okay.
I'm convinced that Clarence Thomas is a vampire. I'm convinced. There has to be mirrors in that house. And everybody knows that a vampire cannot see his or her or them reflection through that mirror. So, Clarence, what's your blood type? Are you a vampire? It doesn't make any sense that a Black man in his 70s who grew up in Savannah, Georgia, or close by is carrying on like this. It's kind of like, and those of you who know, he used to be a member of the Black Panthers as well.
What? They kicked him out, didn't they? Hopefully.
Why don't take the word of the Black Panther?
Right.
But I saw a documentary where there was that he was involved with the Black Panthers for a period of time because he was very, very.
Oh, I know it. He was an infiltrator.
Right. Yeah.
He was involved with the Black Panthers before he crossed over. But it doesn't make any sense. You know, I gotta wonder, when you go home to Southern Georgia,
He probably doesn't.
and well, probably can't. You know, for the family reunion, you know, is he that Negro over there? You know, according to the family members.
They poison him at the reunion.
It does. It's an embarrassment to have someone who took Thurgood Marshall's seat
I know.
Right.
I know.
Could
and
never
is
feel those shoes.
reversing everything that man, Justice Marshall fought for. And now we have someone who's coming in because, you know, I guess he got his feelings hurt somewhere along the way, and he's taking it out on Black folks. I don't know whether or not the events that happened with Anita Hill is the root of Black society's problems concerning how he views how to handle any decisions where Black folks are involved. As a get back to what happened during that hearing.
I think he was always like that. I was on Capitol. I worked for Senator Birch Bayh at the time when he was working for Danforth from Missouri. And some of us got together, Republicans and Democrats. Well, you know, first, we're all Black. So let's have a meeting once a month. And we set up this lunch every month. We had some great people come in, Prescott King, Jess Jackson at the time, and the greatest was Thurgood Marshall when he came in and talked to us. Guess who never showed up for one of the lunches?
Thomas.
He never showed up. But talk what you're saying. You know, this guy says he doesn't know what diversity is. Does he look in the mirror every morning? I mean, he can't hide that.
Right. And so, I mean, he knew what it was when he met Jenny, didn't he?
Well, him and Jenny are evidently cut from the same boat of cloth. She's against women's rights. You know, so how do these two function on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, our problem is there's no way. The only way we can prevent another Clarence Thomas is to vote.
Sure.
It is to vote. To make sure we get out and vote, get a president in there who's going to nominate someone like Thurgood Marshall. I remember at the time this was happening, Blacks were rallying around Higginbotham, big-time attorney, very, very brilliant man. And the Republicans went with Clarence Thomas. Higginbotham would have been a perfect person to fill Frederick Douglass' shoes. So we really have to come in 2024. Although I think that the Supreme Court is giving the election to the Democrats. I know some of you disagree.
I hope you're right.
Well, you know, I've been listening to some other YouTube channels, you know, listening with Hispanic students, and they are very, very disturbed on this decision because now they're saying, well, what's going to happen to my brother and sister who may want to go to these schools? And this decision again has opened the door for anything else to fall out. And it's because somebody got their feelings hurt because he could not go to the school or schools of his choice.
Who?
You bring up,
The little kid.
You bring up a good point. Why is all the emphasis put on us and not the Hispanics? Because this case affects them too.
Oh yeah, they're crying right now.
Yeah.
But all the emphasis, news and everything, they concentrate more on us.
Well, that's another reason why I went ahead and
We're the
brought in
great
the
boogeyman.
Hispanic folks.
We're the ones-
We're the great boogeyman.
Because it's impacting him. They interviewed a Hispanic student talking about, well, he's from Ecuador, but still he's Hispanic. And the impact this decision is going to have on the Hispanic community as well. So I think it's also going to impact the Asian community as well, because again,
Eventually.
yeah, well, again, I was looking at a lot of the folks who are busing, and it's the Chinese, and I don't know about the Japanese, but
Yeah.
most of the Chinese.
It's mostly Chinese kids.
So what about the Vietnamese? What about those from Korea?
Right.
You know, who are kind of like the marginalized Asians of the group? It's going to impact them as well.
Well, yeah, or even the people. You have a lot of engineers from the Indian subcontinent, right? You have all these engineers from India. Well, who Stanford is a lot of them go to schools in California, Stanford, your Berkeley, and your UCLA and stuff like that. But it's still that this admission decision is still going to have an impact on all those young people from the Indian subcontinent. And that's another thing. When you talk about 6% Asian, that's also including. A lot of times that they include Asia Pacific Islanders, and so or they'll include like people from Central Asia, like from the Indian subcontinent, in that Asian demographic. So they are, the Chinese students are way overrepresented.
Yeah.
Because they don't. When you look at that 6% population, they don't constitute that full 6%. A lot of these people are from like India and other countries, and so. But that's.
Okay, let's not exclude Tim Scott.
Where
Okay.
there's no racism. He says there is no such thing as racism
Oh
in the
my
United
God, this
States.
guy's,
Is he running again?
he's running for
Yeah,
president.
he's running for
again? Oh
president.
God, yeah.
That's why it's so important that we not buy into this Republican Party lie. It's a lie. And
A lot of people already have.
But boy, I hope that from now until November on this show, we can continue to stress the Republican Party is not in the best interest of black people.
The other decision, I couldn't think of it earlier. Student loans. That was the other one I was trying to think of. So
That
they
was the
killed,
same
yeah,
thing.
they killed student loans. And so there's a lot to be angry about. You know, like I say, the reproductive rights, the student loan, the forgiveness, and so, and again, this decision reversing affirmative action. So, and I mean, they are equal opportunity offenders, and it's across the board. And so, and I hope you have, like I said, you have this movement of Hispanics, especially along the Texas border, that are moving more conservative. And so, I really hope they understand that, because when you talk about opportunity, this is something that's going to block opportunities for their kids. It's something that's going to block upward mobility for the kids who actually did make it and go to college, and now they're saddled with that debt. And so when you have a court and a Republican Party that's more than happy to throw money at corporations, but are adamant about not giving the average everyday American citizen a break. And so I definitely hope that all these divergent groups remember this when it comes to election day.
Right.
And, you know, and the other thing, getting back to Clarence,
Uncle Ruckus.
Uncle Ruckus.
and his game. The other issue is this decision, it's going to impact professions, especially medicine and law, because we're already seeing an underrepresentation of Black attorneys, you know, in the courtroom. And so, as a Black woman, there's a underrepresentation of Black gynecologists, you know. And so, when you start putting this, you remove race out of the picture, then now, how is the admissions to these law schools and medical schools going to be handled, especially when there's an underrepresentation of one particular group, knowingly there's an underrepresentation of one group, and now it's going to push more Black folks and Hispanics to go see doctors who are not familiar with the cultural context.
Let me ask you a question. Does this panel attribute any of what has happened to Barack Obama?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, in an indirect way.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let me say.
Because these
let me say
people-
one thing.
Go
about
ahead.
that.
Okay.
If Barack had said, "Screw you, McConnell, I'm going to appoint
Merrick Garland, right,
to the court,"
right.
then it wouldn't be so skewed towards Republicans.
But the Senate wouldn't have taken up that vote.
Also,
They refused to even interview him.
They-
Also,
yeah.
Ginsburg, when Barack had asked, you know,
Getting up there. Yeah.
You need to retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, if she didn't retire when
Right.
she died,
Right.
open it up for
Trump.
Trump.
Right.
But let me say,
real quick though. So the what Dr. Sharon was touching on, the repercussions. So one of the repercussions is that yes, in the banking industry, a lot of these folks that you have, these M&A managers and all these kind of investment bankers, they come from Ivy schools. There's a direct path from Harvard to Wall Street, and so that's going to affect the amount of black representation on Wall Street. That's going to affect the black representation in the boardroom, and high up in the corporate boardroom, because a lot of these people come from Ivies. And so when you look at that, how's it going to affect black wealth? Because these are the people who are earning millions of dollars in salary. And so this has a direct effect on black wealth, legacy wealth that's going to be passed down to kids. It's also going to have a big effect on black teaching and black thought and black representation in these classrooms, because Ivies hire professors from other Ivies.
but let me clarify myself about. I'm sorry to get back to the Barack issue. White folks in this country have said they don't want another black president. Period. Okay, they don't want it. Somebody like Barack going to a Ivy League school and being the head of this. They don't want. They're cutting everything. You know where normally you would cut off a branch, they cutting it at the stalk. Okay, because they want to make sure that none of this ever happens again. And that's the way I look at it. Is that once this happened to him, and I think that Barack also has a responsibility to deal with this as well. I mean, he's not without. I think
To your point, though, there is an anti-intellectualism streak that runs through the Republican Party. So according to them, they don't even want anybody from Harvard or Yale or Princeton. They you know what I mean?
I agree.
So which way do they want it? Are they trying to say that we don't want black folks to go to these institutions? Well, you're not going to vote for those black folks anyway. And two, you don't want any, according to them, they don't want anybody from those kind of institutions anyway.
But they never cared as long as we were senators or representatives or whatever. But when you became that president, of the United States, and you're telling all of these people to do that, that brought about Trump, and Trump brought about these justices, and these justices are going down your checklist that you talked about to make sure that these things aren't going to happen.
Right. And remember, in the meantime, at the state level, they're trying to make it much more difficult for black people to vote.
Which is that too. And then I thought you were going to mention, and then at the state level, where they're mandating these state institutions to take into consideration SAT and ACT scores, where they know that black kids, the mean scores are lower than average white kids. So they're demanding that these institutions, by law, Texas passed a law demanding that these institutions in Texas consider SAT and ACT, and that right there was rooted in racial bias.
And you know what that will do? That will continue to create a elitist group of black Americans, because those kids that can pass those exams are usually, there's an exception, usually coming from families where they're already reached a certain intellectual level.
Right.
And it's going to leave, as this one scholar said, it's going to be the individual against the community.
So are we returning to the idea of the talented 10th?
The talented 10th, right? That never worked. No, it didn't. He got discouraged. His voice got discouraged because the talented 10th did exactly what they're doing today. They wanted to get the Mercedes Benz. It's okay for you to say.
He just set you out there, didn't he?
Yeah, nobody even knew that.
I got a Benz. So I'm riding right past it today.
But she comes back to the community. But the other part I was going to put on. She comes back to the community. The ones that don't come back to the community, whether they say you want to see the elite, go to the churches in the inner city, because they come from outside the suburbs, and I'll take a hit too. I live in the suburbs. Okay, so that evens it out. But what I was trying to say to you guys, especially you know, you always start some mess, you know.
What'd I do?
I'm talking about.
That's Chris. I always thought.
You were fine. Yeah. You had to point it out, didn't you? But my point was that will create that elite that you talk about, the talent that will leave the rest of the blacks, and that'll happen more and more and more. So it's time to wrap up. I'm going to go to
Me?
I'll go to
Chris first.
All I can say is that, you know, I think Fred brought it up and talked about voting and how important voting is to our issues. But more so than voting, we've got to be like the Republicans and play the long game. They have been working on this probably for over 40 years to get to where they got to this particular week. In order for us to look at the same thing, we've got to look at our kids in elementary school and make sure. I can remember when I was small in elementary school and I wanted to vote. I couldn't wait until I was 18 to be able to vote. And we as parents, we as a school, when we're teaching in the schools and so forth, we've got to bring this about so that they understand that. And that should be our long game. So that's what I have to say.
Well, I'm married to a sister. I need to find a way to get standing to challenge loving. And to get it up to the Supreme Court. I want to see how you're going to vote. So that's how I want to close. So.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to end a little bit differently. I want to give kudos to Charles Barkley. Now, I usually side, but I'm going to give him his due. Because of this decision, he went to his attorneys, his estate attorneys, I guess, to redo his will, in which in that will, he had money set aside for Auburn University. So it did a rewrite. Now the will says that any money to give, from his foundation, from his account or whatever, has to be, any scholarship, any grant has to be given to a black student. So my challenge to those who are able, those of us who are able, not me, because I don't have that type of money to give to a university, but the Oprahs, the Tyler Perrys, all those folks who have all this money, set aside money at these universities dedicated solely to black students.
Amen.
Okay, amen. Yeah, definitely. Well, Clarence Thomas has been a nightmare for black issues, an absolute nightmare. But in a way, we should learn from that and make sure that we vote the right way to get the right candidate in there that's going to put the right person on the Supreme Court. And for those of you who say we need to divide our vote or we shouldn't vote Democrat, all I have to say is look at who put Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court and look at who put Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court. And that should tell you the story. So this is Contemporary Black Voices saying thank you. We'll see you again. In the meantime, we are telling our story our way.
Clarence, I'm cooking some collard greens and fried chicken tomorrow. If you want to come over.